Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Hey, good morning. This is Jeff Johnson, the host of the Local Leaders Podcast, and we are excited today to have some South Carolinians over here with us from Charleston. We've got Conor and Dan Sullivan, who have joined us today from Bumpa. And welcome to the show, guys, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Hey, we are thrilled. It's being a North Carolina boy, South Carolina is not too far away, and I have definitely been in your city. In Charleston, and look forward to getting back soon and actually coming and having lunch or dinner with you guys. So I guess I want to open up the show and give you a chance to just kind of share your story and tell us a little bit about the business and what it's all about.
Sure. Conor can fill in the blanks where I take a misstep, but basically it just started with the two of us. We were both in the corporate world. We weren't necessarily feeling fulfilled with those careers and the trajectories of those careers. And we always wanted to do something together and do something for ourselves and really create a true family business. And we started coming up with this idea for this bar. We named it after our grandfather, Bumpa. That's what we used to call him. And over the years, we just started adding more and more to it. And then about 3-4 years ago, we started getting very serious about the concept and moved down here and really got started.
Yeah, it quickly went from something we talk about, at family vacations, Christmas and Thanksgiving, and we just decided this was the year. We put the pedal to the metal, got a business plan in place, got our capital together, and within another year, we were doing this full time.
Wow. And where did you guys move in from?
We grew up in Pittsburgh, and me and my family have been there for a very long time. So we were leaving truly what we considered home. But coming down here, our parents have lived down here for a while. Conor and I have been vacationing down here for a long time since we were little kids. Our first summer jobs were down here. So it really felt like as natural transition as it could be. And Conor's been all over the country, really.
Yeah, moved around. Like Dan said, we were both from the corporate space. I was in sales, so I got moved around a lot. Spent time in Chicago and most recently in New York, where my wife and I met. And so she's a Southern girl herself, so she wanted to come back down, and this seemed to be a pretty good excuse for that.
Well, we're glad you guys are here, and I understand you're in an old converted warehouse. What was it? I saw on the website, 150-year-old warehouse or something to that extent. Maybe 350. Yeah.
That's actually more accurate. Yeah, as far as we can tell, it's about 350 years old, possibly older, but that's just as far back as our amateur record keeper, which is my brother's wife, can tell. But so this is an old cotton and phosphate warehouse, again, as far as we can tell. And the pier used to come right up to our building here, and ships would offload, upload, and ship right back out again. So it's a really cool piece of history.
If you've ever seen old pictures of or paintings of what the waterfront at Charleston used to look like, and the customs houses would be right on the water, our back door is right in line with those. So ships would have just come in and picked up or dropped off, and it really is a special building. It's a lot of little fun pieces of the history that we were able to preserve. We keep the brick that you see behind us is all original. The ceiling, when you come in, that's all original. And you can even see the office door. It's all bricked up now, but you can see the doorway that would have led into the offices that ran the warehouse. So it really is it's a bar that lives inside an authentic piece of Charleston history.
It That being said, it took a little while to bring that all back out again. The brick you see behind us is painted over. The ceiling Dan was talking about was all covered up by a drop ceiling. So we knew we had our work cut out for us once we hit our construction phase, but we knew we wanted to just bring out what was already here.
It took us, oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna say, it took us about two full years to do the build out once we had purchased the building.
Wow. Yeah, that's where I was going with that. I didn't really prep you and tell you I was going to ask about it, but just in seeing the backdrop and seeing that wonderful brick, and I just can imagine how beautiful it is there, and the views and the food, and I'm sure it's a great experience for your customers. And if you look at the reviews out there, you'll see that it is great reviews. And if you haven't had the chance to get over to Bumpa's, need to get down there to Charleston, South Carolina, and visit these guys and enjoy some time with them. And it's a beautiful city as well. Very, very quaint, very neat, different. I love it down there. But like I said, it's been a bit since I was in. But I wanted to back up, and I wanted to ask you about that build out piece. Did you expect a 2-year build out, or did you run into all kinds of things along the way?
We're both ready to jump on this one. No, we were way over budget and way over our timeline. When we first moved down here, to, like Conor said, to really start the ball rolling on the project, it took us about a full year to find the right space. So we had that to contend with. And we knew nothing was really going to start until we had the perfect building for our concept. So Conor and I think it was actually Conor got the listing in an email the first day that our building was put on the market. And he called me right away. He said, I think I know this building. I think you need to get down there today and take a look at it. Because I was kind of down here doing the shopping.
Mm-hmm.
So we came down with the brokers. They were pretty sure that it wasn't for sale, but it ended up, Conor had read everything correctly, and we got in. Conor flew down right away to take a look at it, and I think together we knew this was the right spot.
We were looking in every neighborhood in Charleston. We never would have expected that we would wind up this far downtown. We just figured everything would have been outside of our price range. So while we were excited to see this on the market, again, we understood that we would have a longer road ahead of us than we had initially planned. That the build out was going to be really more of a renovation, honestly, than a true build out. It had been a restaurant before, but it needed a lot of love. So we got a great deal on it, but again, understanding that we were going to have to roll up our sleeves and go to work.
It was almost the furthest thing from a turnkey that we could get, even though it had been a restaurant in the past, as Conor said, but when we saw what needed to be done, it became clear it was going to have to go down to a totally empty shell to accomplish the quality that we were looking for. We didn't want to just move in. We wanted to put our stamp on it, make it our own, make it special. This is what we were going to be dedicating our lives to. We didn't want to cut any corners. So we did everything down to the plumbing. We took the floor out. It was dirt floors and a ceiling for a while.
Wow.
But 2 years later,
a lot of meetings with the city.
Zoning, and permits and everything else.
Permits. As you said, Charleston does have kind of a quaint feeling. Yeah. That's very well curated by the city. So decisions like where our grease trap can and should go, is allowed to go, the material of our roof. These were all huge dollar decisions that we had to make, and sometimes very quickly, to keep the project going.
Especially considering on top of just building what is basically a brand new restaurant from the bottom up, we had to contend with the fact that this was a historical building, and there were a lot of hoops to jump through to make sure that the integrity of that was protected as well, from the city standpoint. They wanted to make sure that anything that had a historical background to it was not only improved upon, but also preserved to look the way it did in the 1800s. So
Right.
we kind of had both ends sort of trying to meet in the middle and trying to create, at the same time, trying to create something great for the city. That was always Conor and I's goal, was not just to make something for ourselves, but to give back to a beautiful city and create something worthwhile. And I think we've accomplished that.
Were there, it just reminded me of a project I'm aware of that was up in Virginia. So were you guys, since it's a historic building, were you able to, are there in South Carolina any historical tax credits, any of that kind of thing that y'all had to learn about and dig into and were able to take advantage of?
If there are, we don't know much about them. I
Okay.
think it's more of a expectation than it is a privilege, if that makes sense. If you want to play down here, I think you just have to be ready to contend with, again, a lot of those expectations, a lot of those requirements that Dan was just talking about. On the flip side of that coin, there is a lot of payback at the end of it. Not maybe insofar as like a tax recognition, but certainly in terms of accolades from the Historic Society of Charleston. People do appreciate the hard work once it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They might gripe in the middle of it, but once you get across the finish line, we got a lot of great press. The city was very forthcoming, very effusive in their praise. So that was a big reward and got us a lot of great press, which again, I think really, paid back in dividends.
Yeah, that definitely went a long way. And something that citizens of Charleston recognize is the Carolopoulos Award, which is given by the Preservation Society every year for certain projects that beautify the city, protect the legacy of the building. We were the only project in 2020 to win the Carolopoulos Award for both exterior and interior preservation. We did not realize at the time, we'd seen those medallions. They kind of put them outside of the buildings when they announced a winner. We did not realize that it was as hard to get as it was. I thought, anything that sort of
It just
did
kind
its
of,
job in
yeah.
serving, was sort of
came
lumped
together.
in. But it is a much more prestigious award than we realized. And for Conor and I, that was a great honor and a real validation for us for the literally years of work that we did to get the building where it is now.
Right. Well, that's a great story. And for all of our listeners who are on that precipice right now, about to jump into a new project, launch a new restaurant, looking for locations, maybe they're just getting started. A lot of things to think about when you're selecting your site. And I liked what you said earlier was that, I think I wrote that one down over here, was you were trying to find the perfect building for the concept. And that's not easy to do, but very important.
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, it took us a year to find this, but
don't worry, we kept our day jobs during this process.
Yeah.
We had to have something keep the lights on, but
yeah,
it took us a year to do that. And then, always in the front of our mind was the fact that if this wasn't perfect, and this is our first time doing this, we're putting a lot on the line. So it really had to start with the quote unquote perfect building. And I say that facetiously. You're never going to find 100% right fit, but you got to find something that speaks to you, something that has character, something that reflects your concept and you as a business owner. And I think we're really, really lucky that we found this.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great story and great advice for, like I said, any of our listeners who are just on the edge of starting a new project. So you got the building, you went through all the challenges associated with renovating with an historical building on top of just a normal challenges that you would face in renovation. You got opened up. What, had there been any surprising challenges since you opened that you hadn't necessarily foreseen outside of COVID? And we might come back around that, but if that's not an answerable question, maybe just talk a little bit about some of the challenges you've run into since you got open.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting question. So, we did open last June. That's 2020. So it was very much at the height of COVID. Our opening was delayed several months as a result. So it's hard to, the two are kind of inextricably linked. It's really hard to detach them. But, we definitely had challenges going into it pre-COVID. And then there were the challenges that we had to deal with at opening. And then those challenges just evolved, right, as we were open and as even COVID evolved. So, going into it, like Dan said, we both have corporate backgrounds. While we've both had F&B jobs throughout the years, we certainly never owned a restaurant or built one. So the inexperience was huge going into this thing. We learned very quickly that we were going into unprecedented times too. Great anxiety going in the best of times, creating a restaurant. But we had to open knowing that we were playing with COVID too. So
right.
Fortunately, we did have a lot of strong capital going into this, and quite frankly, Dan and I, put up a lot of our own to see this thing through. We thought about even waiting COVID out, but we figured we were going to run out of money pretty quickly. So while we had our war chests, we knew it was June of last year and never. So we had to go in just with the limited knowledge what we had, and knowing that we were going into untested waters. But I think we reacted very quickly and were able to basically play the cards we're dealt, for lack of a better way of putting it.
That's perfectly said. The inexperience was going to be a challenge in a city like Charleston, which is considered a food, haven. It's definitely a place known for great restaurants, great bars. So in the best of times, this would have been a huge challenge for two people starting their first business. But one of the first decisions Conor and I had to make when we put off our initial opening date was we had assembled a really great management team. We had our chefs in place. We had bar manager, GM. So we had hand selected the team that we were going to open this business with, and fully intending that this would be the team going forward in the future. And not patting ourselves on the back, but to be able to provide a living for these guys and women during the pandemic, before we were even selling anything, is a great point of pride for us. I think we were able to stick together. We had our homework to do, and we knew that if we could connect all the dots and keep this management team together, we could hit the ground running when we did open. And really, at the first reasonable and safe opportunity, that's when we did.
And we owe a lot of thanks to programs like the Payment Protection Program and the Restaurant Revitalization Act program down the road. But programs like that really facilitated our being able to take care of our people when we were shut down, and helped us really get open and get our feet on the ground and get going at full speed. But as we were saying, we did successfully open, obviously, but the challenges definitely changed as we went through 2020 and even into 2021. As the markets started opening back up and the tourists started coming back out, it was a completely different restaurant. We had to solve for different challenges. Staffing, the supply chain crisis that we're still going through. completely different variables than even a year ago at opening. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack in all of that, but that's kind of the broad strokes.
Yeah, talking about adaptability, you've really had to adapt and swerve and groove a whole lot to keep the business going. And you know, those are two industry challenges that you know, I don't know that any of us can solve, especially you know in this, you know, between us in a short period of time. But staffing has been a major challenge, and supply chain is definitely with shortages and prices.
Sure.
You know, totally impacting our restaurant owners. On the staffing side, have you guys had to shorten your hours or close additional days other than you had planned?
Yeah, so when we first opened, lunch was not part of the original plan. We were going to eventually open for lunch, but the idea was to really solidify our place as a bar. So the original hours were going to be 4 to midnight or 4 to 2 a.m. State of South Carolina prohibited the sale of alcohol past 11 p.m. So that facilitated the switch. Like you said, we adapted. We opened for lunch right away. We had to staff up for that. As a result, I really believe we've started making a really great name for ourselves as a great lunch spot, and now it's one of our busiest busiest revenue parts of the day. It's our lunches are doing great, and luckily we've staffed up to a point where we have been able to resume those original hours as well. So we're open all day now, and
yeah,
we're having a blast.
We had to staff up for that once we were allowed to stay open for late nights. So that was a hurdle. We had to hire more people. And then again, once the crowds came back, we're kind of calling it mid-March, or St. Patty's Day, to be frank, was really our first big kind of blowout week.
Mm-hmm.
We realized we had to staff up again. So it's not that we were understaffed at the beginning. It's that we realized if we want to continue to make customer service a real tentpole of our brand, we have to have the bodies to get that done. So it took a while, but since March, we've really just built up an all-star team, you know, week after week, almost day after day. And actually, as of yesterday, we're fully staffed.
Oh, wow.
Which we're thrilled about.
Yeah.
Again, everyone here is really dedicated. We have an amazing team. Everyone watches for each other and has each other's back. So regardless of whatever really came our way, someone would pivot to you know, make the block or whatever had to happen. But now it's getting easier for everybody as we get more talented people on board, which has been really rewarding to see come together.
You know, one of our goals is, as owners, is to create, you know, again, I'll use the air quotes, but to create we want to be the best employer in Charleston. We're not a big place, but we want to take care of our people. We want to give them personal ownership of this business. You know, we want them to feel like it's theirs, that this is where they not just come to work, but come to, you know, enjoy their work. Mm-hmm. And I think that philosophy has really led to great retention for us with our workforce. It's led to happier workers, and it's led to people more than willing to, like Conor said, make a sacrifice or go the extra mile to keep the wheels going, even when, you know, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Our kitchen staff in particular pulls crazy long hours for us, but they know that there's brighter times ahead. And like Conor said, we've crossed the line now where we're fully staffed, and it feels good to say that. And our head chef is very happy about that as well.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I would bet. Well, you said something that I've talked about with a number of owners over the past month or two as we started our show. And that is one of the things you said, Dan, was give people personal ownership in the business. And I say that about my business. You know, I want people to feel the same way I do about it, and to have that this sense of ownership that I'm responsible. I got to make it happen. How do you get people to take that ownership? What are you guys, any way you can share a specific or two about how that's happening?
Off the top of my head, again, not patting ourselves in the back here, but I think it's important for our folks to see that Conor and I are willing to do everything alongside them at all times. And you know, we don't see it as an us and them endeavor, especially when we're busy at Saturday lunchtime. It's all one team. It's not front of house, back of house. It's all one group. And Conor and I will jump in the dish pit. We will jump behind the bar. We will clear tables. We will run food. We'll take orders. We'll do whatever is necessary. And I think when our folks see us doing that and seeing that coming from the top, so to speak, I think that carries a lot of weight. We're willing to do anything that we're asking them to do.
Aside from maybe making great food, which I'm not capable of doing.
The technical aspects are beyond.
Anything else we're willing to do and did for a long time. Again, it's rewarding to be able to kind of step back and see that work being done. But yeah, I think Dan's right. Being in the trenches, I mean, I can't not say it's kind of like a band of, brothers and sisters kind of banding together and getting through the day. And, that's rewarding. And again, we try to be really fair with how we deal with everybody. We try to be very supportive, and we try to be really transparent too, from a business perspective, right? Because, the buck stops here, and, we're going to be, really open with anybody that cares to ask, how the business is doing. So kind of soup to nuts, and we try to be as open as possible.
Yeah, we want to make sure that everyone knows quality of life is important to us. Their quality of life is important to us. So when things arise, we've got people, everybody's got families, especially now with COVID coming back again. We want to make sure our folks understand if they need something, we're going to make it work for them. If they need some time off or whatever the case may be, that's something we want to be able to create for them. And when they know that that's a possibility, or they don't have to be worried about asking us for something outside the norm a little bit, I think that carries a lot of weight as well. We call it, we tend to call this a family, and it's hard not to when we're spending more time with these folks than sometimes we do at our own homes. So it's nice to be able to create that feeling for our employees.
Well, I think, from what you shared, it's really a testament to you guys' leadership to be able to engage your people and your staff the way that you have been, in order to get them to take that same sense of ownership, same sense of pride, same work ethic, that you guys have. I think that's a great example of great leadership, being in the trenches and, ensuring that their employees are engaged. And of course, that's going to end up being creating a great customer experience for your guests who are coming to the establishment. And again, look at Google reviews and all those kind of things, and you'll see that everybody's happy, they love the place, and that's what it's all about, is giving guests that experience.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. I'm just curious about kind of you guys, and I didn't say it early on, but in case anybody missed it, these are brothers, and they're not physically killing each other as we sit here and talk, and as they work each day. But they probably did when they were young, I'm guessing, because that's what we boys do. Do you guys kind of separate do you both have your own role in the business? And if so, what does each of you do? Or do y'all cross into each other's territories very often?
Yeah, so there's some things that we separate. Conor is, I'm going to embarrass him, but Conor's just got a fantastic business mind, great with finances. So, that's a world that I am very happy to let him take care of. So we kind of joke that he's the CFO and I'm operations. I like being on site and talking to tables, talking to people, and it's not as fine a line as that. We communicate great. We see each other every day. Most of it does fall in the middle, but yeah, in terms of business strategy and finances, Conor's definitely the mind on that one, and I am very thankful that he is, because he's great at it.
Well, there's a flip side to that coin, right? We both learned how to run a business. Being a cog in the corporate wheel or machine rather is one thing. Building one yourself is quite another. Happy to do that, but Dan takes a real heavy load on being that first face you see when you walk into Bumpa's, hearing those words, welcome to Bumpa's, making sure they're sat comfortably. I was a sales guy. I always said my whole life I think Dan would be a better sales guy than me, and I think he's proving it now. He's just he's a presence, and I think Dan's really become a figurehead and the face of the organization, and it's been really awesome kind of seeing this. And this is not something we put on paper, like the diagram of like,
right,
Dan's
operations. Right.
Well, that's kind of a soft rule maybe, and again, there's tons of bleed. These are roles that have sort of organically kind of figured themselves out, so it's kind of funny to. And again, I'd say sort of satisfying to see that kind of coalesce.
Yeah, and to sort of put an umbrella on top of everything, to be able to work together and to do it so seamlessly, it's been the joy of my life in terms of my working career. To actually accomplish this and to do this with my brother, I mean, I couldn't ask for anything else, and I'm sure he would say the same thing. So, we're having a great time. Yeah, right. We're having a great time.
He's the bigger brother, by the way.
Yeah, you got to watch it, Conor. Don't get on the wrong side.
Right.
I understand. He's not a small man.
That's right.
Well, that's awesome, and it's great to hear that. Family can come together and work, and we see that with a lot of our business owners that we talk to. Some are independent; they're the one leader at the top. Many others have partners, and it's helpful to think strategically when you're getting started and making sure that you bring in partners that complement you and can have other things that they're good at or best at that will complement what you're good at, because owning the whole load is a heavy burden, and being able to split that up and share it certainly can help, and certainly helps with the work-life balance as well. So you guys look like y'all have a great partnership, and it's working out very well for you. And as we come, I guess, toward the latter part of the show today, we talked about challenges, and you guys shared quite a bit there. We talked about leadership. We talked about engaging employees, and things such as that. One last area or question I always like to ask, and I think it's just me, but I think our audience enjoys it. I like to know kind of how you guys gauge the success of the business, on whether it's a day-to-day basis or week-to-week or month-to-month. Are you that I was going to ask, the financial guy is like the ratios of but I figured you were looking at the bottom lines and margins and all that kind of good stuff. How do you watch it every day? I'm sure Conor probably does.
Hey, sorry, Jeff.
Sorry, we
lost
you
there for a moment.
That's okay. I just got a message that I had an unstable internet all of a sudden, so hopefully it's cleared back up. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's crystal. So yeah, how do we determine success?
Yeah, I was curious. Well, I was just curious if, of course, you said profitability, and I know that the number crunching and all that's probably the Connor piece, and he's in his Excel spreadsheet, looking at everything. Do you look at it? Are you watching sales and profitability daily, or are you looking at a longer term kind of thing? How do you determine if you're successful?
We kind of look at it on a micro and a macro level. We try to have a monthly meeting, the two of us, to sort of look at the business as a whole, make some projections, and Connor can tell you more about that. But we also have a great POS system that can give us sales in real time, and we're able to see based on the hour, are we doing well, or are we doing, is this a slow day? Right. So yeah, we measure it that way, and we measure it on how the staff is doing, how they're feeling. We want to make sure the day isn't too taxing on them, and try to keep them bolstered and buoyant, and keep the attitudes as good as they can be. And so there's a bunch of different ways that I see a successful day. But being able to see the numbers in real time and to have a good understanding of those is invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there's a certain degree of you're only as strong as your weakest link is at play on the daily basis. If one server or bartender is having a bad day, that can affect sales for an entire day, which affects the week and the month, so on and so forth. But yeah, we measure sales on a daily basis. I'm sure every organization does, but studying week over week, how Tuesdays have been performing versus Wednesdays. And we find that very important. If we find a soft spot, we try to fortify it as much as we can. But yeah, as Dan said, we try to kind of hold ourselves accountable on a weekly and monthly basis. But we also kind of have a what I'll call a board of directors that we're still beholden to. So it's very important to us to report transparently, kind of up the ladder. But also just from a tax perspective too. Again, this is our first rodeo, so we're very much self-taught when it comes to a lot of this. So we need to keep our accounting as clean as possible. And the more organized we are, the more successful we seem to become. The more we can understand what needs to change and what's working.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's like you've got a good mix of metrics, and performance metrics and financial metrics that you're watching, along with Dan being the operational guy. He's in the trenches, and he can bring that perspective as well, and actually probably is key to implementing. Connor will see it on the financials. Hey, here's a soft spot. What are we gonna do about this, Dan?
Yeah, pass the buck. Yeah, that's perfect. That suits me fine.
And we work it out between the two of us. But yeah, I mean, there's tangibles and then there's intangibles, and we try to keep a barometer on both of those. Obviously, the weekly meetings too. Yeah, I was going to say we've surrounded ourselves with a management team that knows a lot more about this business than we did, at least starting out. So we have a weekly management meeting with those guys. We love hearing their thoughts, their concerns, their pain points, their successes. As Connor mentioned before, we're at a point now where we're not required to be here all day, every day. Right. We are able to step away, find some time for ourselves now, and we've left the business in great hands and people that we trust. So that weekly management meeting is our touch point for everybody, that we get to sit down and figure out what those intangibles are, what the problems are, and how we can fix them and address the future.
I think that's a great piece of advice for our listeners. If you don't literally have a board of directors that you're reporting to, there's no reason why you can't have a board of advisors associated with your business.
Very well.
And bring those people in, set up a weekly or at least a monthly review and get that input, because there's nothing better than having a room full of mentors who have your best interests at heart and the experience and the knowledge to be able to help. And people are willing to do this. All you got to do is ask. So it's awesome. And you guys are terrific. I love your story. I love what you're doing. I'm so glad for the success that you've had, having, really just, come up in COVID. I mean, that was that was the whole deal. And the agility that you've been able to show and the pivots that you've had to make. We've had a little feedback there, but the agility and pivots have just been extraordinary, and great place, great guys. And for all our listeners, again, if you're in the Charleston area, be sure to check out Bumpas down in downtown Charleston, and go see Dan. He'll greet you at the door, and if he doesn't, he might come by the table to hang out with you. But yeah, go see these guys, and give me the website address while we're on here, and anything else that you want to share, or any final thoughts you guys might have.
Come see us at 5 Cumberland Street. Again, we're right downtown Charleston, right by Waterfront Park. Our website is Bumpas, BUMPAS -CHS as in Charleston.com.
Follow us on Instagram.
Yep.
Bumpas
_CHS.
_CHS.
Yeah.
Come on down and see us, Jeff. We're looking forward to seeing you soon. Come on down, bring the family, and we'll take good care of you.
Absolutely.
I'm sure. Oh man, that sounds awesome. I look forward to the opportunity. You're close enough to get there, and hopefully before the summer or fall is over, I'll make my way there. We're heading out to Destin, Florida in a couple of weeks, so we're
right in the line there. You can come on down.
Yeah,
14,
that's right.
14 taps of local beer, Jeff.
Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about the beer. We didn't even talk about
or the food, really.
Or the food, yeah.
Hey, and
fantastic menu, great head chef, great kitchen staff that creates some just really beautiful plates. It's all kind of centered around a build your own fry plate. We have about 40 toppings that you can put on top of those fries.
Yep. Sauce, cheese, veggies, meats. Really,
wow.
Sky's the limit. People have a lot of fun with that.
That is awesome. I can't wait. And you mentioned beer. We almost called this show "Business with a Beer."
I wish we had. We should have had it.
Yeah, that was one of them that was out there floating around, and I asked a bunch of people, and sent out an email to all my customers, trying to get feedback, and some liked it, but some didn't, I guess, and we ended up going a little more corporate with the Local Leaders podcast. But yeah, business and a beer. That was.
I don't mind that at all.
I was going to sit here and drink, while we talked. And,
Next time.
We would have appreciated this.
Yeah.
This should be a beer here. I wish.
Yeah. And I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning might be a little early, but.
Not for the Irish.
Right? Well, that's true. That's true. Well, again, thank you guys for being on today. I'm gonna wrap this thing up and let you get ready for your day. We do appreciate it, and thank you so much for sharing your story and your knowledge and experiences that you've gone through. So, again, thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you,
yes,
Jeff.
sir. Yes, sir. And to all our listeners, we've been talking with Conor and Dan Sullivan at Bumpas in Charleston, South Carolina. Again, get down there and see those guys and enjoy some time with them. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson, and it's been another episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. Thank you.